Fleet Commander Krix'thar slouched in his command chair, tentacles draped dramatically over the armrests as he stared at the holographic display of yet another backwater planet. His third eye twitched with boredom while his primary eyes scanned the preliminary reports. Seriously? Another conquest? The Galactic Dominion was running out of interesting worlds to invade. Commander Lieutenant P. Rax burst onto the bridge, waving a data pad like it contained the secret to eternal youth. "We found something something absolutely ordinary." "Your enthusiasm for mediocrity is noted," Lieutenant Krix'thar drawled, straightening his posture slightly. "Please, enlighten me about this thoroughly average discovery." "It's a Class 3 civilization, sir. They still think digital watches are pretty neat. And get this, they're using primitive combustion engines for planetary transport." P. Rax's antenna quivered with excitement, completely missing his commander's sarcasm. Krix'thar pulled up the detailed scan results, mandibles clicking in amusement. Nuclear weapons? How quaint. And their global communication network is entirely dependent on physical infrastructure. Oh, this is precious. He scrolled through more data, each detail more entertainingly primitive than the last. They're still arguing about whether their planet is flat. Magnificent. The bridge crew snickered, their collective superiority complex reaching dangerous levels. One junior officer actually fell out of her chair laughing when she saw the humans were still using something called social media. Sir Navigator Veltalk chimed in, trying to maintain some professionalism despite her quivering mandibles. "They call their planet Earth. Even their name for their own world lacks imagination." Krix'thar rose from his chair, his ceremonial cape flowing behind him in what he thought was a particularly impressive manner thanks to the small anti-gravity generator he'd installed after watching too many space opera holovids. "Well, crew, it appears we found our next conquest. Prepare the standard invasion protocol, you know, the one we use for planets that haven't even achieved decent quantum computing." "Should we deploy the full fleet?" Sir P. Rax asked, already calculating firing solutions for their planet cracker weapons. "Oh, please." Krix'thar waved three of his tentacles dismissively. "Send in the cadets, the first-year ones, the ones who still get their tentacles tangled in their own environment suits. This will be an excellent training exercise." He paused for dramatic effect. "In fact, let's make it interesting. First cadet to secure a continent gets promoted to junior lieutenant." The bridge erupted in laughter. Several officers started placing bets on which continent would fall first, with Antarctica being the clear favorite because, as Veltalk pointed out, it's basically empty anyway. As the invasion plans were drawn up using their most basic template, the one usually reserved for planets still discovering electricity, Krix'thar settled back into his command chair and started practicing his victory speech. He was particularly proud of the line, "Your primitive species will be remembered in our database as conquest number." What number are we on now? Sir P. Rax consulted his datapad. They would be conquest number 47,962. Perfect. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Conquest 47,962, the one where nothing interesting happened. Krix'thar chuckled, imagining how this would look in his memoirs. Perhaps he'd even include a footnote about their charming reliance on fossil fuels. The invasion fleet assembled, a massive display of technological superiority that was complete overkill for such a primitive world. Krix'thar ordered them to arrange themselves in an intimidating pattern above Earth's atmosphere, just because he could. "Make sure to record their primitive satellite communications," he commanded. "Their panic should be entertaining during our post-invasion party." Little did Commander Krix'thar know, as he sat there planning which of his many tentacles he'd use to sign the conquest documentation, that his name was about to go down in galactic history for all the wrong reasons. And it all started with a human, a baseball bat, and what would later be described as the most embarrassing military operation since the Great Slug War of Sector 7. The landing party materialized in what their scans indicated was a prime location. The maintenance sector of a primitive learning institution called Jefferson High School. Lieutenant Zar Leth, leading his team of first-year cadets, checked his translation matrix and straightened his ceremonial invasion sash. Remember, he addressed his troops, "These primitives have never seen superior beings before. Try not to overwhelm them with our advanced." Is that whistling? Down the fluorescent-lit hallway came Marcus Rodriguez, night janitor extraordinaire, pushing his cleaning cart while whistling "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." His prized Louisville Slugger, a bat that had seen him through 15 seasons of amateur baseball, was propped against the cart. Rodriguez never went anywhere without it since the raccoon incident of 2023. "Hey, you guys from the theater department," Marcus called out, barely glancing at the alien squad. "Because I just waxed that floor, and those costume tentacles better not scratch it up." Zar-Leth's translator crackled, attempting to process this bizarre greeting. "Primitive human, we are not from your theatrical arts division. We are your new overlords. This sector is now under the control of the Galactic Dominion." Marcus paused his whistling and leaned on his mop, looking thoroughly unimpressed. "Yeah? Did you clear this with Principal Thompson? Because last time the drama club did a sci-fi play, they left green slime everywhere, and guess who had to clean that up?" The alien cadets exchanged confused looks. Their invasion manual hadn't covered this scenario. Cadet NX-4 frantically flipped through his Conquering Primitives for Dummies handbook. "Your Principal Thompson holds no authority here," Zar-Leth declared, puffing up his ceremonial chest plates. "We have come to claim this facility as our first beachhead in the conquest of Earth." Marcus sighed, the kind of deep sigh perfected by custodians who'd seen every type of mess imaginable. "Look, I got 3 more hallways to mop, the gym floor needs buffing, and Mrs. Henderson's biology lab still smells like that failed experiment with fermented yogurt. I don't have time for this." "You dare dismiss the might of the Galactic Dominion?" Zar-Leth's antenna bristled with indignation. "Behold our advanced technology." He aimed his quantum disruptor at a nearby water fountain, reducing it to atoms. Marcus's expression darkened. That was a brand new water fountain. "Do you know how long it took maintenance to install that? 3 months of paperwork, 2 contractor visits, and 1 very angry school board meeting." He reached for his baseball bat, grip well worn from countless games and practice sessions. "Now, I'm going to give you folks 1 chance to clean this up and get out, or we're going to have what my old coach called a teaching moment." "Are you threatening us with a primitive wooden striking implement?" Zar-Leth laughed, his cadets joining in nervously. "Our bodies are protected by quantum-enhanced force fields." Marcus took a practice swing, the bat cutting through the air with a familiar whoosh. "Funny thing about baseball, it's all about timing. And you know what I learned in 15 years of playing? Sometimes the best hits come when everyone thinks you're outmatched." The security cameras would later show that what happened next violated several laws of physics, 2 intergalactic peace treaties, and at least 1 school district policy about proper use of sporting equipment. "Code Red." "Code Red," Cadet NX-4 screamed into his communicator. "The primitive has some kind of anti-quantum kinetic weapon. Lieutenant Zar-Leth is down. He's been knocked into next week's lesson plan." The last thing the invasion force saw before teleporting back to their ship was Marcus Rodriguez, calmly returning his bat to its resting place against the cleaning cart. "And that's why you don't mess with a man's water fountain," he muttered, resuming his whistling as if he hadn't just committed the galaxy's first successful defense against an alien invasion with sporting equipment. Commander Krix'thar stared at the surveillance footage in disbelief. He did what with a baseball bat? The emergency response team had just beamed back Lieutenant Zar-Leth's squad, most of them curled into fetal positions, mumbling about curveballs and home runs. Their quantum armor showed impossible dents in perfect baseball-shaped patterns. "Send in the heavy assault unit," Krix'thar ordered, all 3 eyes twitching simultaneously. No more playing nice with the primitive. Down on Earth, Marcus Rodriguez was having an unusually productive night. The floors were gleaming, the trash cans were empty, and he'd just solved an alien invasion problem without missing his coffee break. He checked his watch, still time to practice his swing in the gym before the morning shift arrived. The heavy assault unit materialized in the school gymnasium, their war mechs towering 20 feet high, plasma cannons humming with enough power to level a city block. Unit Commander Krix'thar's voice boomed through external speakers. "Surrender, primitive bat wielder." Marcus looked up from his batting practice, sighing at the scorch marks their teleporters left on his freshly waxed floor. "You know, you folks really picked the wrong night. I just finished buffing that. Your primitive cleaning duties are irrelevant. We have come to." Krix'thar's speech cut off as Marcus casually tossed a baseball straight up in the air. Crack! The baseball, meeting Louisville Slugger, became a cosmic event. It ricocheted off 3 war mechs, somehow hitting each one's critical weak point, before bouncing back to Marcus's hand like an obedient pet. "That was a warning shot," Marcus announced, pulling another baseball from his pocket. "I got a whole bucket of these, and tonight's usually my practice night." Impossible, Krix'thar screamed, checking his sensors. That ball violated 17 laws of physics. The trajectory calculations alone should have. Crack. Crack. Another baseball turned into a physics-defying projectile of doom, this one somehow managing to hit every single emergency eject button in the assault unit. Pilots were suddenly ejected from their mechs, their advanced targeting systems completely confused by what their commander would later describe in his report as batting techniques that should not exist in this dimension. Our force fields, a panicked technician shouted over the comm. They're calibrated for energy weapons and explosives, not whatever this is. Marcus calmly walked to the batting cage, dragging his bat behind him with a menacing scrape against the floor. The sound made several alien warriors flinch violently. Now, about those scorch marks on my floor. The retreat was so hasty that 3 soldiers forgot to activate their teleporters and had to sprint out the emergency exits, leaving behind several pieces of advanced technology that Marcus later used as impromptu cleaning supplies. The quantum phase shifter, it turned out, worked great for removing gum from under desks. Back on the command ship, Krix'thar was having the worst day of his military career. What do you mean? He's taking batting practice with our surveillance drones. Those are equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology in the galaxy. Sir, a shell-shocked analyst reported, he's hitting them back into space. 2 of them just knocked out our secondary defense grid. He's calling them pop flies. The commander slumped in his chair, all his tentacles drooping. Get me Fleet Admiral Zixis. And somebody find out everything we know about this baseball. As the command ship erupted into chaos, security cameras caught Marcus Rodriguez putting away his batting equipment, straightening up the gym one last time, and adding a note to his daily log. Encountered minor pest problem. Handled with standard equipment. Requisition for new baseball bucket pending. In the corner of the gym, a forgotten alien scanner kept recording, its AI struggling to comprehend how a simple wooden stick wielded by a school janitor had just outperformed weapons technology developed over thousands of years. Its last transmission before running out of power was a simple message warning humans are built different. Fleet Admiral Zixis arrived on the command bridge looking like he'd swallowed a quantum grenade. Let me get this straight, Commander Krix'thar. 1 human, with a stick. A wooden stick. A baseball bat, Sir Krix'thar corrected, then immediately regretted speaking as all 7 of the Admiral's eyes turned to glare at him. Our analysts have been studying it. Apparently it's used in some sort of ritualistic combat sport. The holographic display showed Marcus Rodriguez going about his daily routine, completely unbothered by the 30 cloaked assassination droids following him. Every few minutes, without even looking, he'd casually swing his bat and take out another drone. We've lost 47 stealth units, 16 elite capture teams, and 1 experimental chronotank, the Admiral read from the casualty list. The chronotank, I must point out, hasn't even been invented yet. Somehow, he hit it so hard it materialized from the future, just to explode. Perhaps if we tried negotiation, suggested Strategic Officer Ventar, who'd spent the last 6 hours trying to calculate how a wooden stick could possibly defeat quantum-enhanced armor. We tried that. Krix'thar sighed. We sent our best diplomatic unit. He made them run laps around the baseball field until they surrendered, called it spring training. The security feeds showed various failed capture attempts playing out across the school grounds. In the cafeteria, a Spec Ops team had attempted to ambush Marcus during his lunch break, only to find themselves accidentally hitting themselves with their own stun beams. The shots somehow ricocheted off his casually swung bat. Look at this footage, Admiral Zixis pointed at a particular screen. He's not even trying to fight. He's just cleaning, while occasionally swatting our most advanced weapons away like they're annoying insects. The bat wielder whispered a junior officer with something close to reverence. That's what the troops are calling him now. There are rumors he's some kind of chosen one, prophesied in ancient Earth sports legends. Another screen showed Marcus checking his phone during a particularly intense assault, casually deflecting plasma bolts while texting his fantasy baseball league about next week's draft picks. Sir, reported Communications Officer Krix'thar, we're getting disturbing reports from the fleet. The cadets are starting to ask questions about baseball. Some have been caught trying to replicate the bat-wielding techniques in the training simulators. Admiral Zixis slumped in his command chair. Do you realize what this means for our reputation? We're the most advanced military force in 3 galaxies. and we're being thwarted by a maintenance worker with sports equipment. That's not the worst part, Sir Krix'thar added grimly. Our cultural analysis team just discovered something called Little League apparently. They start training them young. There could be millions more like him. The bridge fell silent as security footage showed Marcus organizing the school's baseball equipment, cataloging an arsenal that now seemed more terrifying than any weapon in the fleet's inventory. The legends are spreading through the ranks, Krix'thar reported quietly. They say he once hit a home run so powerful it created a temporary wormhole. They say he knows the mystical art of the perfect bunt. Some claim he can catch faster than light particles with something called a baseball mitt. Admiral Zixis stared at the screen, watching Marcus whistle while mopping the halls, his bat ever present, ever ready. Mark this planet as a Class X restricted zone. No one is to attempt invasion without express permission from the High Council and maybe some baseball lessons. The research team aboard the flagship huddled around their screens, faces illuminated by endless streams of Earth sports data. Lead researcher Krix'thar's hands trembled as she delivered her report to the command staff. Baseball, commanders, isn't just a game. It's a manifestation of human psychology that should terrify us all, she began, pulling up footage of historic games. These humans willingly stand in front of projectiles traveling at lethal velocities, armed with nothing but reflexes and a wooden stick, for fun. Commander Krix'thar watched in horror as the presentation showed clips of base stealing, bench-clearing brawls, and something particularly nightmarish called a 7-game series. They have a saying, Krix'thar continued, her voice quavering. It's not over till it's over. These creatures will keep fighting, even when victory is statistically impossible. They call it a comeback. They celebrate it. The footage shifted to show various baseball-related training routines. Look at their youth training programs. They're teaching their offspring to fail repeatedly, calling it practice, acting like it's normal to hit successfully only 3 times out of 10. What kind of species considers a 30% success rate acceptable? And the psychological warfare, another researcher chimed in. They have something called trash talk and heckling. They intentionally attempt to destabilize their opponent's mental state through verbal combat while maintaining the physical contest. In the medical bay, the ship's psychologists were overwhelmed dealing with traumatized troops. They keep mumbling about something called a perfect game, one doctor reported, and they're developing an irrational fear of wooden sticks. The final part of Krix'thar's presentation focused on Marcus Rodriguez's maintenance logs. Even more disturbing, commanders. He considers our invasion attempts routine, just another mess to clean up. This level of psychological resilience shouldn't be possible. As the lights came up, Admiral Zixis made a decision that would change galactic military doctrine forever, begin immediate implementation of baseball-based training protocols. And somebody find out what this thing called a hot dog is apparently. It's crucial to the whole experience. Admiral Zixis deployed every available ship in the fleet. The sky above Jefferson High School darkened with battle cruisers, their weapons primed for what would surely be remembered as overkill of galactic proportions. No more games, Zixis announced through the planet-wide broadcast system. Surrender the bat wielder, or we'll be forced to. Why is he laughing? Marcus Rodriguez stood on the baseball diamond, still in his janitor's uniform, bat resting on his shoulder. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood the Jefferson High Lady Wolves softball team, each player armed with their own bat and wearing expressions that suggested they'd been waiting for an opportunity like this their entire lives. So Coach Barbara Thundersmith called out, her voice carrying decades of experience in dealing with overconfident opponents. These the folks who've been messing up our field? Girls, remember what we practiced. The first wave of attack drones swept down, only to be met with what the alien tactical AI would later describe as mathematically impossible batting averages. Softballs launched with precision accuracy knocked out shield generators, weapon systems, and in one particularly impressive case, the entire navigation computer of a light cruiser. Impossible, Krix'thar screamed as he watched the Lady Wolves execute a perfectly choreographed defense pattern. They're using primitive projectile variations. The trajectory calculations alone should. That's my curveball, sophomore pitcher Katie Martinez shouted as she struck an incoming plasma bolt right back at its source. Been working on it since 7th grade. Marcus moved through the chaos like a baseball Zen master, his bat a blur of motion. Ladies, remember, just like practice. And watch those follow-throughs. The aliens deployed their supposedly invincible quantum phase battlewalkers, only to discover that the human concept of a double play could be applied to combat situations with devastating effectiveness. Two Lady Wolves players, working in perfect sync, managed to disable an entire squadron using nothing but well-timed bunts. "They're adapting our own tactics against us," a panicked alien strategist reported. "They're calling it small ball and somehow it's working." The tide turned definitively when Coach Thundersmith stepped up to the plate, facing down the fleet's flagship with the same steely gaze she'd used to lead the Lady Wolves to 3 state championships. "Time to show these folks why they call me Thunder," she announced, pointing her bat toward the stratosphere in a gesture that would later be immortalized in galactic military academies as the universal sign for "watch this." What happened next violated so many laws of physics that 3 quantum mechanics professors spontaneously appeared just to faint in disbelief. The coach's hit sent the flagship into an uncontrolled spin, its crew desperately trying to explain how a softball could possibly have that kind of impact. Marcus took advantage of the chaos to approach the downed command ship, casually deflecting defensive fire with his bat. Now he called out to the stunned alien leaders, "About those scorch marks on my baseball diamond." Admiral Zixis, watching his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by high school athletes, made the only logical decision: a retreat. Full withdrawal. "And somebody get me the contact information for their coach clearly. We've been approaching combat training all wrong." The treaty signing ceremony took place at home plate because Marcus Rodriguez insisted that if you're going to make galactic history, you might as well do it somewhere that's properly swept and mopped. And so Admiral Zixis announced to the assembled galactic media, "We formally recognize Earth as a sovereign planet, with the additional designation as the Galactic Center for Advanced Combat Sports Training." Marcus, still in his janitor uniform, but now wearing a hastily made diplomatic sash, signed the treaty with his baseball bat, because at this point, why not? The Lady Wolves team stood honor guard, their softball bats held high in a victory arch. The first interstellar baseball league was established within a month. The Jefferson High School gymnasium became the most prestigious military training facility in 3 galaxies, with alien warriors traveling light years to learn the sacred art of the swing from Master Rodriguez. Remember, Marcus would tell his alien students while demonstrating proper bat grip, cleaning up after yourself is just as important as the hitting. A clean battlefield is a happy battlefield. Commander Krix'thar, now the enthusiastic commissioner of the Galactic Baseball Association, had only one complaint: why did nobody tell us about the 7th inning stretch? We've been doing war wrong this whole time. And so, Earth found its place in the galactic community, not through advanced technology or military might, but through a janitor who knew that sometimes the best way to handle an alien invasion is to treat it like just another mess that needs cleaning up.